Hello, welcome to Plod with me. My name is Colin, and this is the site where I take you around parts of London and tell you a little bit about their history. So this is part 4 of St James and Clubland, and we're picking up where we left off, Pickering Place, the place where it is reputed that duels used to be fought. So if I just spin round, there we go. There we go. So we are here, and we're going to leave Pickering Place. We are going to start walking, and I'm going to basically go for as long as I can before it starts raining, because I'm waterproof but my kit isn't. So if it starts raining, we will stop and then we'll pick up again at a later date. Okay. So we're back down round towards St James's Palace. See Berry Brothers on this. This used to be I think it was Davidoff cigar place as well. Berry Brothers bought it out, and apparently its cellars are on 2 levels, so the cellars go right underneath the road here for them to store their wines. You can see the more modern bit of Berry Brothers and Rudd. Take a quick look. That's a lot of wine. Okay. And like I say, Cuddy Sark whiskey as well. So I thought we would take a nip up Crown Passage. So you've got the Redland pub here. Welcome to the old Redland, reputedly the second oldest licence in the West End. The village pub in the heart of St James. Now, I read a guidebook. It was Andrew Walker who wrote it back in the 80s or 90s, and he was saying about how this felt like a little village. Had that sort of feel to it. Even had an ironmonger's then. I don't think it has that anymore. There's the back of Lock and Company for your hats. A lot of sort of food places and that sort of thing, and some redevelopment going on. Crown Passage Vaults, a noted house for fine wines and vintage port. So with there obviously being so many suppliers to royalty and all the rest of it around here, this is a somewhat well-to-do area. So there'll be lots of places and you're not actually sure what's in them. So this is King Street. So that place is called King and Country. The rare and the unusual is the strapline.
It makes it sound much more like...
I'm thinking antiques maybe.
And this
This is the Golden Lion pub. I remember right, there was a sign on the right here. Yeah, there's not much down there. So here we go. St. James's Theatre. I'll try and get rid of that light. There we go. On this site stood the St. James's Theatre, demolished in 1957, despite an epic campaign of protest led by Vivian Leigh and Sir Laurence Olivier. George Alexander, manager from 1890 to 1918, staged both Oscar Wilde's Lady Windermere's Fan and the Importance of Being Earnest for the first time, really, here. And as it happens, I will be going to see The Importance of Being Earnest in a few weeks' time. There you go, over 100 years later. I would say that's Vivian Leigh in the centre. As that's Vivian Leigh on the left and Olivia on the right. And you'd think that's a touch of Antony and Cleopatra, wouldn't you? So there you go, used to be a theatre here. And this, on the left hand side, is one of the big auction houses. So this is Christie's. So in terms of famous auction houses, you'd have to say that the two biggies, there's lots of them obviously, but the two biggies that you would sort of see articles on the news about and whatnot is Christie's and Sotheby's. And this is Christie's. So I think this dates from, don't quote me, say I think it's 1766, I think. And I think it specialises more in sort of European artefacts as opposed to Sotheby's, which I believe leans more towards the American. But I'm sure they do a bit of everything between them. And by all accounts, you can just wander in and have a look around. I haven't said I've gotten around to do that yet, but I will at some point. Well, I'll be. The Liberal Party was founded on this site on 6th of June 1859. Now, the Liberal Party was one of the latter half of the 19th century. That was one of the powerhouses of British politics until the 1906 election, when they sort of had a bit of a major wipeout. But they were, one of the main forces in British politics for a good 50 or 60 years. And then Labour started on the rise. Oh, look, I'm just going to have a nip over and have a look at some of the stuff in Christie's window. It's just too tempting not to. Oh yeah, like that statue, that would just do in my living room. Come to think about that statue would probably be the size of my living room. Wow. I'll definitely have to have a look in round there at some point. Not because I've got the money to buy anything, just because I'm nosy. Well, how the other half live, I would suggest the collectors and the idle rich. Or hard-working rich, but definitely rich. Okay. Whoa. Okay, sorry. I'll wait. Sorry. Well, didn't know whether I was going to get run over by a car or a bike. Now, there's a plaque on the left here I want to have a look at. I want to see it from the other side of the street so we can get a decent view of it. So you see that plaque just out there, and it says Napoleon III lived here 1848. So basically he had been in exile from France. He got kicked out a couple of times. I think he'd escaped at this point. He'd been imprisoned and he escaped, but then there was changes in France that led to his ability to go back. And he went back and became, I think it was initially president and then emperor. I think he was president for a couple of years and then became the emperor, started the Second Republic. And this is where he was hanging out in London, awaiting his chance, and then took himself over. So we're going to go up to St James's Square. I might need to get my notebook. No, I will need to get my notebook out because there were so many new things to learn that I couldn't memorize them all. So St James's Square was laid out, I should say. A guy called Henry German, hence German Street where we saw the Christmas lights. And he got permission from the king and got a big parcel of land and designed it, laid it all out. And this square was created between 1667 and 1677. And the idea initially was that it would be people who would normally wait on the king and, make sure all his needs were attended to, and they would be based here. And then over time, it became more sort of the political elite, still powerful people and that sort of thing, but not necessarily strictly to do with royalty. These days, it's more institutions that are all around it. But because of the history that there has been all around the place for the last, what are we looking at, 350 years of its existence, there is a lot of houses with, famous people that have lived in them. And the park, I should imagine, I would be stunned if it's not locked. A lot of these places in the more well-to-do areas, the parks are locked. And I'm looking at that, and I would suggest that's the case here. Oh, one thing I should mention, that plaque we saw for Napoleon III, that's the very first blue plaque in London. So basically, come on. I'm not spinning round. Oh, there we go. So basically, all around London, there are blue plaques denoting where famous people lived or famous events or whatever. There's also separate green plaques and brown plaques, but basically the whole process started with the blue ones. There's hundreds of them across London. A bit like the Zulus in the Michael Caine film, they're everywhere. But that was the very first one, the one marking the spot where Napoleon III lived. So, yeah, I just thought I would mention that. So let's have a go. See how far I get before I have to get the book out. Alright, probably very quickly. So let's have a go. 18 St James Square. Now, do I have anything written down for number 18? I think this one on the left, I think this is the East India Devonshire Sports and Social Club or something like that. It was an amalgam of about four clubs, like one of the gentlemen's clubs. Used to belong to the East India Company, and then it sort of merged with others. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze, I think. Right now, so this is quite famous. The Waterloo Way, 16 St James Square. On Sunday the 18th of June 1815, the Anglo-Dutch army under the command of the Duke of Wellington and the Prussian army led by Field Marshal von Blücher, don't ask me to just pronounce the rest of it, defeated Napoleon Bonaparte's army at the Battle of Waterloo, 8 miles south of Brussels in Belgium. The victory was a defining moment in European history. The official dispatch with the news of the victory was carried to England by the Honourable Major Henry Percy, 14th Light Dragoons, and aide-de-camp to the Duke of Wellington. He travelled by post-chaise from Brussels to Ostend, where he joined His Majesty's ship Peruvian under the command of Commander James White. Blimey, everybody's getting credit here. Royal Navy, which then sailed for England, landing at Broadstairs. The officers travelled together by post-chaise to London, arriving on the 21st of June 1815, so it's 3 days later. Immediately after delivering the Duke of Wellington's dispatch to the Prime Minister and the Secretary of State for War at Grosvenor Square, Major Percy continued his journey here to 16th St James Square and led 2 French Imperial Eagles captured at Waterloo before His Royal Highness the Prince Regent, who was attending a soiree hosted by Mrs. Edmund Bohm. So there you go. So this is where the King, well, Prince Regent, sorry, the Prince Regent was basically ruling as the King was declared incapable at the time. That was the madness of King George, I would imagine. And let me see. Yeah, so this is where he got the news. So I'm just trying to remember. Yeah, it would have been. I was just thinking madness and King George. Was it that sort of era? And I think it was. Okay. Now, time for the book. Okay. Bear with me. I've got a very big book. I know I wrote down some notes for various houses. Where are we? We are at... Oh, number 14 is the London Library. Okay. So that is that one. So I looked up a bit of the history of this. So essentially, there was a writer, and his name was Thomas Carlyle, and he wasn't too chuffed with what you had to go through at the regular library to get your books out, not to mention some of the patrons that attended to it, and he decided to start up his own library. And he was joined in this campaign by philosopher John Stuart Mill, and then they persuaded other people who were of the same mind, and basically you paid a subscription, and they started off with 3,000 books. But I think the rules were relaxed if you were a member, and it was like a private membership thing. And if you were a member, you could take the books, but you weren't sort of hampered by the same rules as the public library would have had. These days, apparently, it's got more than 1 million books. And it says, become a member, browse from our collection, and enjoy beautiful spaces to read, write, and think. I dread to think how much it costs. I would imagine it would be outside my limits. Number 15 next door. So this was Lichfield House, and it was here that apparently the Duchess of Richmond modelled for the image of Britannia on the coins that we have. So especially on the older coins, Britannia used to be on a number of the coins. That sort of image that still gets used today in plays and stuff. But the Duchess of Richmond was apparently the original model. There you go. Alright. Okay, so let's see, where are we now? I've got nothing down for number 13. Chatham House. I'll come back to this one. And let's go straight up to Chatham House. So, this is now the Royal Institute of International Affairs, as it says up there. Let's see. That's a think tank that was started by the Rothschilds, I believe, in the 1920s. So, I'll just see if I can get the plaque. There we go. So here lived three prime ministers: William Pitt, the elder in this case, because there was Pitt the younger and Pitt the elder. Earl of Chatham, 1708 to 1778, and he was the guy that we mentioned tried his mate asking to get him into White's Club in the last tour. Then Edward Geoffrey Stanley, Earl of Derby, 1799 to 1869, and then William York Gladstone, 1809 to 1898. So three different prime ministers lived here. And look, it's got the snuffers for putting out the torches when you're out walking at night, which I've only seen those once before. That was on the Westminster Walk, because they're quite rare. And above, you can see the metal, you see those metal sort of hoops? That would have held like a brazier with a fire in it. So again, to light the way into the house. Now I'll just go back up to this one, because this one's definitely impressive. Let's see if we can get this picture for you. There we go. Ada, Countess of Lovelace, 1815 to 1852. Pioneer computing lived here. So, she was the daughter of Lord Byron, the bad boy poet, and she was an absolute mathematical whiz. So, she was privately tutored at home, but then sort of was mentored by George Babbage, the guy that everybody talks about as being like the first guy to build a computer. But the notes that she made, because she ended up working with him on his project on computing device, and the notes that she made have since been sort of interpreted as the first version of a algorithm. So that was in she probably would have been 1830s, 1840s. So she died very young of cancer. But that algorithm, whereas I believe Babbage has sort of visions of it being computing and calculations, she actually believed that you could do stuff like eventually train it to create music and that sort of thing. AI, anybody? Like, talk about being ahead of your time. So recognised now, and she's actually got a computer language named after her, the one called Ada. And obviously had one hell of a brain on her. Her dad was a famous poet, and she was the first computer programmer. So there you go. Apparently she also had a real problem with gambling. She was broke towards the end of her days, she died quite young. So obviously her computational skills didn't stretch to, creating a system for the bookies. Now I'm going to find somewhere to rest my stuff and change my battery, because we're getting very low, and then we will continue on. See if I can find somewhere to sit. Tell you what, before the battery goes, let's just have a look in the park. This private garden, which is open to the public Monday to Friday until 4:30, administered by the St James Square Trust. Now it's just rolls. So you can get in during the week on sort of daytime. It's quite nice, isn't it? Okay, now, as I said, I need somewhere to sit. Or at least somewhere to put my bag when I take everything apart. This'll do. Right, I'll be back in a minute. Alright, we are back. So, we're in this corner of St James Square. This red brick building was apparently during the war the scene of lots of espionage activities during the Second World War. Now I think it's an arts place, I believe. Now we've got this little memorial here. I'll just tilt down, bear with me. It says, here fell WPC Yvonne Fletcher, 17th of April 1984. So she was a police constable, and there was the Libyan Bureau across the way, number 5. So that place there in the corner, the flag outside, number 5, that was the Libyan Bureau under the sort of the control of, when Libya was under control of Gaddafi. And I believe there was some sort of protesting riots, whatever, outside here against the Gaddafi regime. And next thing, some shots rang out, and unfortunately the police constable got shot and was killed, and nobody was ever brought to book for it. So basically they all claimed diplomatic immunity. The people that worked in there, many of them, the ones, even though the ones that were convinced that had done it, were allowed to go. And then they basically booted out about 60 officials of the Libyan consulate, or whatever it was called, bureau. Were kicked out of the country. Just right too. But at least there's still a memorial to the woman who was only just doing her duty, you know. Probably watching the riots, making sure it didn't get out of hand. Oh, here we go. Sneezing fit. Okay. So this is number 4. It says Nancy Allister, 1879 to 64. The first woman to sit in Parliament lived here. So she was the first woman to sit in Parliament, but she wasn't the first woman elected to Parliament. That was the Countess Margaret, so it was an Irish woman. But being a member of Sinn Féin, they had a policy, then as now, if they ever get elected to the British Parliament, they refuse to take their seat. So Nancy Allister, the first one to actually take her seat in Parliament. This building here has some quite marvellous facades. And for the life of me, I can't find out what they're about. I'll have to do some more digging. But number 3 here, like, there was a bloke with a monkey, like an organ grinder with a monkey on the left, and then there was somebody, it was a knife sharpener. That's what that is. He's sharpening the knives. And then there's there's somebody doing like the sort of town crier in the middle. And then on the right, I've got to be honest, I'm not sure what's going on in these right hand ones. Very grand for something that I'm not even sure what the building is. Like, the best I could find out is apparently in the last 20 years it's been a golf club, and then there's been like an office building, but I can't find anything about those facades, or reliefs I should say. I'll do some more digging and see what I can find. Isn't it amazing? Even the money that no doubt was here at this time, this has been a victim of the window tax. There was a time when, depending on how many windows you had in your house, you would have to pay more tax. And a lot of people, rather than paying the tax, they just brick them up. That's obviously what happened to this building. I do like it when people turn without indicating. Now there's a big plaque here, so let's see what it says. Oh yes, okay, Norfolk House, I know about this. So Norfolk House, 24th of June 42 to the 8th of November 42. General of the Army, Dwight D. Eisenhower, Supreme Allied Commander, formed the first Allied Force headquarters, and in conjunction with the commanders, the fighting services of the Allied nations and the authorities in Washington and London planned and launched Operation Torch for the liberation of North Africa. It's not all that happened here. And later, 16th of January 44 to 6th of June 44, a Supreme Allied Commander, Supreme Allied Commander, Allied Expeditionary Force, in conjunction with the commanders of the fighting services of the Allied nations. Blimey, talk about a mouthful. And the authorities in Washington and London, he planned and launched Operation Overlord for the liberation of Northwest Europe. So basically D-Day, June the 6th, 1944, D-Day. This is where it was launched from, planned and launched from. And then underneath it says, the United States of America recognizes the selfless service and manifold contributions of General Dwight David Eisenhower, Supreme Allied Commander, 1944-45. At this site, General Eisenhower, on behalf of freedom-loving peoples throughout the world, directed the Allied Expeditionary Forces against Fortress Europe, 6th of June 1944. Well, that's a lot simpler than the one above, isn't it? This plaque was dedicated by the United States Department of Defense delegation and the Eisenhower family on the 4th of June 1990, during the centennial year of his birth and the 46th anniversary of Operation Overlord. That's much better than the one above. Okay, so the freedom of the West, certainly of Europe, this was where it was planned and executed. So no small feat. I'm just going to take a wander over here. This is Grimaldi House. I'm not sure why Grimaldi. Wasn't he the first clown, Grimaldi, if I remember right?
Hey, I hear you calling.
Now the building directly ahead with the little trees out of it, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's the Army and Navy Club. The last of our clubs, and obviously related to the servicemen. Apparently known as the RAG. Something to do with the quality of the food, I believe. So that was formed, yeah, you can see the Army crests on the doors. The Navy, no doubt, as well, because it's the Army and Navy Club. But you can see the military crests. I'll just show you. Yeah, you can see them there. It's hard crossing a road when nobody indicates. You don't know where to take your life in your hands. Oh yeah, so you can get the flag up there. Yep, there's the flag telling you it's our Army and Navy Club. Started in 1963. Now I was saying in one of the houses earlier that as well as the light snuffers, there was like the iron sort of holders for holding sort of braziers and lights. And you can see here, they've sort of got a modern version with like light bulbs in it, but you can see the principle. You see that? There you go. So it's got the iron ring around it, but before it would have been like a bowl effect, I believe, with sort of coals in it, perhaps maybe gas lighting for some of the houses.
Yeah, I mean.
And I'm not sure what number 20 is. Prestigious HQ office. Looks like it's going under development at the minute. So we're back around where we started in St James Square. And I think I'm going to show you, just get a little bit closer to those lamps, because they're quite decorative. And then I think that'll be us. So not much to say in the last bit. But there you go. A bit of old-fashioned London with the lamps. It doesn't look like it with these ones, but a lot of them in St James, they're still gaslit. Still very old-fashioned. I think it's a nice touch that they're still there. Come on, round you get me. There we go. Okay, so that's us, and that is St James Part 4. I think that's probably it. I mean, there might be other little bits I'll dip into as we're doing Piccadilly, but really I think that's it. So that's the St James area. We'll do Piccadilly nearby. It sort of runs parallel, but we'll do that soon. But for now, that's it. The rain is just starting, so we just beat it. Okay? So thanks for watching. If you like this, hit the subscribe button or let other people know. And I'll hopefully see you in the next one. But thanks for watching, and for now, bye.